In a brutal winter storm, blood stains the snow as two wounded wolves collapse at an old man's door, hiding a chilling secret. Can he save the child trapped in his cabin's depths? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest heart-pounding stories. A wolf's scream ripped through the blizzard's howl, so sharp it froze Elias's blood. Snow slammed his cabin like a tidal wave, wind shrieking through the pines, rattling the frost-crusted windows until they groaned. He lunged for the axe by the hearth, its blade catching the firelight, his heart hammering like a trapped animal. Another cry, choked with pain, clawed through the storm's roar, followed by frantic scratching at the door claws raking wood. Desperate, unrelenting, Elias's breast steamed in the icy air, his pulse thundering. 15 years alone in this cursed forest, and nothing dared approach in a storm like this. Nothing natural. He gripped the axe tighter, boots pounding the creaking floorboards as he crossed the room. The scratching intensified, paired with a low, guttural whine that raised the hairs on his neck. He yanked the door open, snow exploding inward, stinging his face like 1,000 needles. Two wolves lay crumpled in the drifts, blood gushing from their torn flanks, crimson rivers pooling across the snow, glowing sickly in the lantern's flicker. The larger wolf, a gray male, dragged itself forward, eyes blazing with agony, not hunger. The smaller female twitched, her claws scraping ice, her fur matted with blood and frost. Elias raised the axe, voice cracking. "Back off," he shouted, the wind swallowing his words. But the wolves didn't lunge. The male's head sank, a whimper escaping its throat, while the female's eyes locked on his pleading. Human, desperate. Blood steamed in the frozen air, the stench of iron thick. Elias's stomach churned. Wolves didn't beg, not unless something worse drove them here. He scanned the forest, a white abyss of swirling snow, pines buckling under the storm's wrath. No tracks, no pack, just these two, bleeding out at his door. His mind screamed to slam the door, let the blizzard bury them. He'd sworn to keep the world out after Mara died. 5 years of silence, of grief carved into his bones. But those eyes, God, they weren't animal. They were a warning. Damn it, he rasped, slinging the axe over his shoulder. He knelt, snow soaking his knees, and grabbed the male's scruff, dragging its heavy, limp body inside. Blood smeared a hot, red trail across the floor, soaking the boards. The female crawled after, collapsing by the fire, her claws clicking weakly, her breath ragged. Elias kicked the door shut, the storm's wail muffled but relentless. The cabin reeked of blood, wet fur, and fear. He lit a second lantern, its glow casting jagged shadows across the walls. The wolf's wounds were grotesque deep, clean gashes through muscle, not from claws or teeth. A blade did this, a human blade, sharp and deliberate. His hand shook as he grabbed a rag, pressing it to the male's flank. Blood soaked through instantly, warm and sticky. The wolf didn't snap, just stared, its amber gaze unnervingly steady, like it knew him. Elias's mind raced. He'd been a ranger once, trained wolves to patrol the forest. But that was decades ago. These weren't his. Yet they'd come here, to him. Why, the female lurched to her feet, legs trembling, and staggered toward the kitchen. She sagged against the wall, barking a sharp, piercing sound that made Elias flinch. "What's your deal?" he growled, wiping blood from his hands. She clawed at the wooden panel behind the stove, splinters flying, her nails gouging the rotten boards. A low, hollow thud echoed not the wind, not the fire. Elias froze, his breath catching. The sound was wrong, too deep, too alive. The female barked again, louder, her eyes boring into him like a command. The male dragged himself closer, whining, blood pooling under him, his claws scraping the floor in weak, desperate motions. Elias's pulse hammered. He'd built this cabin with Mara, board by board, and never knew a hollow space was here. A secret, buried in his own home. He grabbed a crowbar from the corner, its iron biting his palm. The female pressed against his leg, her fur warm, her blood soaking his boots. He shoved the stove aside, its legs screeching, metal scraping wood. The panel was old, rotting, nails rusted. He jammed the crowbar in, prying with all his strength. Wood splintered, the thudding louder now, rhythmic, like a heartbeat trapped below. "What the hell is this?" he shouted, his voice hoarse. Another board cracked, revealing a black gap, cold air rushing up, carrying a faint, metallic scent, blood, or something worse. The thudding quickened, urgent, alive. Elias's chest tightened. Memories of Mara flooded back her laugh, her warmth, her voice begging him to stay safe. He'd failed her, let her slip away in this very cabin. Now the world was clawing back. Through these wolves, through this sound. The female growled, low and fierce, her claws scraping the floor, urging him on. Elias grabbed the lantern, its light slicing the dark, and leaned into the gap. "Who's there?" he roared, his voice echoing into the void. No answer. Just the storm's scream, the wolf's ragged breaths, and that relentless thump, now so loud it vibrated in his chest. He swung the lantern lower, shadows twisting on rough stone walls. The male nudged his hand, its nose wet, its eyes burning with purpose. Elias's heart thundered. The wolves hadn't come to die, they'd come to lead him. To what? He didn't know, but the weight of it pressed on him like the snow outside. He took a breath, the air knifing his lungs, and stepped toward the darkness. The floorboards creaked under his weight, the lantern trembling in his grip. The female pressed closer, her blood-slick fur against his leg, her growls vibrating through him. The male crawled after, dragging its wounded body, refusing to stay behind. Elias's mind raced whatever was down there. It was alive, and it was waiting. He'd spent years running from the world, from pain, from purpose. But the wolves had brought it all back, bleeding and howling, demanding he act. He tightened his grip on the lantern, the light shaking, and moved deeper into the gap. The thudding grew louder, faster, a pulse that matched his own. The air grew colder, the scent of iron thicker. He didn't know what he'd find, but the wolves did. They'd crossed a frozen hell to show him, and he couldn't turn back now. Elias's lantern trembled, its light slicing through the black maw of the hidden cellar. The thudding below now a frantic pulse that shook his bones. The female wolf pressed against his leg, her blood-soaked fur hot, her growls vibrating through him. The male dragged itself closer, claws scraping the floorboards, eyes glinting with desperate purpose. Snow howled outside, the blizzard's roar seeping through the cabin's walls. But the air in the gap was colder, heavier, reeking of damp stone and something metallic blood. Or worse. Elias's heart pounded, his breath steaming in the icy draft. "What did you bring me to?" he rasped, voice barely audible over the relentless thump. The female barked, sharp and urgent, nudging him toward the darkness. He took a step, boots crunching on splintered wood, the lantern casting jagged shadows on rough stone walls. The cellar's mouth was narrow, barely wide enough for his shoulders, the steps descending into a void that swallowed light. He'd built this cabin with Mara, every nail, every board, and never knew this was here. A secret, carved into his home, now screaming to be found. The male wolf whined, its wounded body trembling, urging him on. Elias gripped the lantern tighter, the metal burning his frost-bitten fingers, and started down the stairs. The air grew thicker, the metallic scent choking. The thudding sharpened a weak, rhythmic tap, like someone too frail to fight. His stomach twisted. He called out, "Who's there?" His voice echoed, unanswered. But the tapping paused, then resumed, faster, desperate. The female wolf followed, her claws clicking on stone, her blood dripping in dark splotches. Elias's mind raced 15 years alone, 5 since Mara's death, and now this. Wolves bleeding at his door, a hidden cellar, a sound that wasn't animal. He wanted to run, to seal the gap and let the storm bury it all. But the wolf's eyes burned into him, demanding he move. The stairs ended abruptly, the lantern revealing a cramped chamber, its walls slick with frost and mold. A rusted chain lay coiled in the corner, next to a pile of rags or clothes. The tapping came from the far wall, where a wooden crate sat, its lid nailed shut. Elias's blood ran cold. The sound wasn't mechanical. It was human. He lunged forward, dropping to his knees, the lantern clattering on the stone. The female wolf circled the crate, snarling, her claws gouging the floor. Elias grabbed the crowbar, still tucked in his belt, and jammed it under the lid. Wood splintered, nails screeching as he pried. The tapping grew frantic, a weak voice gasping, "Help, please." Elias's heart stopped. A child. He tore at the lid, splinters cutting his hands, until it gave way. Inside, curled in a ball, was a boy no older than 10, pale, shivering, his lips blue from cold. His wrists were raw, rope burns bleeding, his eyes wide with terror and hope. "You're safe," Elias choked out, voice breaking. The boy whimpered, too weak to move. Elias ripped off his coat, wrapping it around the child, his hands shaking. The female wolf nudged the boy's hand, licking his fingers, her growls softening. The male wolf, still at the stairs, let out a low howl like a signal. Elias lifted the boy, his body light as a bird, and carried him up the stairs, the lantern swinging wildly. The cabin's warmth hit like a wave, but the boy's shivers didn't stop. Elias set him by the fire, grabbing blankets, his mind a storm of questions. "What's your name?" he asked, kneeling. The boy's voice was a whisper. "Sam, they took me. 4 days." Elias's gut clenched. Kidnapped. He glanced at the wolves, now lying near the fire, their wounds still oozing. They'd tracked this boy, crossed a frozen hell to find him, to lead Elias here. He grabbed a kettle, heating water, and tore rags to clean Sam's wounds. The boy's eyes darted to the wolves, not with fear, but awe. "They found me," Sam murmured, his voice fading. Elias's hands stilled. He remembered his ranger days, training wolves to track poachers, their loyalty fiercer than any man's. These two weren't his, but they knew him, how the female wolf lifted her head, staring at the broken panel, as if expecting something else. Elias's skin prickled. The cellar wasn't empty chains, clothes, a crate built to hide a child. Someone had used this place, maybe for years. He grabbed his old radio from the shelf, its dials crusted with dust. He had to call for help, but the storm was a wall of white, cutting him off. Static crackled as he turned the knob, his voice sharp. "This is Elias Kane, North Ridge. I've got a kid, kidnapped, needs help now." The line hissed. No reply. He slammed the radio down, cursing. Sam coughed, his small frame shaking. Elias fed him sips of warm water, his mind racing. The wolves had found Sam, but who took him and why here? In a cellar Elias never knew existed. The female wolf growled, low and tense, her eyes fixed on the door. Elias grabbed the axe, his pulse spiking. The storm hadn't stopped, but something else was out there, or someone. Elias's fingers fumbled with the radio's dial, the static spitting like sparks in the dim cabin, each crackle a taunt against the blizzard's relentless howl. Snow battered the walls, piling high against the windows, sealing him in a frozen tomb with a kidnapped boy and 2 wounded wolves. Sam curled by the fire, draped in Elias's worn coat, his small body shuddering. his eyes flickering between fear and exhaustion. The female wolf paced restlessly, her blood-matted fur bristling, low growls rumbling as she glared at the door. The male lay near the hearth, his breath shallow, his amber eyes tracking every shadow, unyielding despite the blood pooling beneath him. Elias slammed the radio's mic against his palm, the cold metal biting his skin. "Work, damn you," he growled, voice hoarse. He pressed the button, leaning close, his words sharp. "This is Elias Kane, Northridge. I've got a kid, kidnapped, hurt bad. 2 wolves led me to him. Send help now." The static roared back, the storm's interference a wall of white noise that mocked his urgency. Sam coughed, a wet, rattling sound that cut through Elias's focus, and his stomach knotted. The boy was pale, his lips cracked, his wrists raw from rope burns that bled under the firelight. Elias grabbed a tin cup, filling it with steaming water from the kettle, and knelt beside Sam, the floorboards creaking under his weight. "Drink slow, kid," he said, steadying Sam's trembling hands. The boy sipped, wincing, his eyes locking on the female wolf, who paused her pacing to sniff his blanket, her nose twitching. "They saved me," Sam whispered, his voice a fragile thread. Elias nodded, his throat tightening. These wolves had crossed a frozen hell, their gashed flanks proof of a brutal fight, to lead him to Sam. But who had taken the boy? And why here, in a cellar hidden beneath his own cabin? He glanced at the broken panel behind the stove, its dark mouth exhaling cold, a secret he'd never suspected in 15 years of solitude. The radio crackled, a faint voice piercing the static. "Kane, Sheriff's Office. Repeat." Elias lunged for the mic, heart pounding. "Kid's name is Sam, about 10. Found him in a hidden cellar. Kidnapped 4 days ago. Wolves tracked him. He's weak. Needs a doctor." The voice sputtered. "Storm's grounding us. Roads blocked. Hold tight." Elias's fist hit the table, the radio wobbling. "Hold tight." Sam's coughs were worsening, his breath shallow, and the wolves' wounds oozed steadily, their strength fading. He grabbed a rag, pressing it to the female's flank, blood soaking through, hot and slick against his fingers. She didn't flinch, her eyes unnervingly human, staring into him like she knew his soul. Memories surged his ranger days, decades ago, training wolves to track poachers through these same forests. He'd taught them signals, fed them from his hand, trusted their instincts over any man's. Their loyalty had saved him once. When a poacher's bullet grazed his arm, he'd left that life behind, buried it with Mara. But these wolves had dragged it back. Elias's hand stilled, the rag dripping red. He remembered a wolf pup, years ago, caught in a trap near the ridge. He'd freed it, bandaged its leg, let it vanish into the snow. Could these be its kin? Repaying a debt. The female growled, snapping him back, her ears twitching toward the door. Elias grabbed his axe, pulse spiking. The storm was a monster, but the wolf's stance screamed danger, something closer, human. He crept to the window, frost biting his fingertips as he wiped the glass. The snow swirled, a white void, but a shadow flickered tall, fleeting, gone in an instant. His blood ran cold. "Stay down," he hissed to Sam, who clutched the blanket, eyes wide with terror. Elias checked the door's bolt, its iron heavy, unyielding. The cellar haunted him, rusted chains, tattered clothes, a crate built to cage a child. Someone had used that place, maybe for years, right under his nose. While he grieved Mara, her face flashed her laugh, her warmth, stolen by sickness in this very cabin. He'd failed her, locked himself away. But Sam's life was in his hands now, and he wouldn't fail again. He grabbed more logs, stoking the fire, its heat pushing back the cold seeping from the cellar. Sam's coughs grew harsher, his small frame shaking. Elias rummaged through a cupboard, finding a dusty tin of broth and a jar of dried herbs remnants of Mara's remedies. He heated the broth, its savory scent cutting through the stench of blood and wet fur, and spooned it to Sam, who ate slowly, his hands trembling. "Where's your family?" Kid Elias asked, keeping his voice steady. Sam's eyes welled, his voice a whisper. "In town. Park. A van. They grabbed me." Elias's jaw clenched. A planned abduction, not a random snatch. The wolf's wounds clean, deliberate cuts screamed of someone who knew the forest, knew how to hide. The female wolf barked, sharp and sudden, her hackles raised, limping to the door. Elias gripped the axe, moving silently to the window. Another shadow flickered in the snow. Closer now, a silhouette against the pines. His heart thundered. The radio crackled, the sheriff's voice clearer. "Kane, we're trying. Storm's bad. Keep the kids safe." Elias didn't respond. His eyes locked on the window. The female snarled, her blood smearing the floor, her body tense as a coiled spring. Sam whimpered, pulling the blanket tighter. Elias's mind raced. Someone was out there, circling, waiting. He remembered his ranger training wolves don't track for nothing. These two had fought to reach him, to save Sam, but the danger wasn't over. He tightened his grip on the axe, the firelight glinting off its blade. The storm raged, but the real threat was closer, and he'd be damned if he let it touch Sam. The blizzard's roar softened to a low growl as headlights pierced the snowy veil, their beams slicing through the cabin's frosted windows. Elias gripped his axe, his pulse hammering. The female wolf snarling at the door, her bloodied fur bristling. Sam huddled by the fire, his coughs weaker now, his small frame wrapped in blankets, eyes wide with fear. The male wolf lay still, his breath shallow, but his amber gaze tracked the flickering lights outside. A sharp knock rattled the door, followed by a voice, muffled by the wind. "Kane Sheriff's Office." "Open up." Elias's shoulders tensed, his eyes darting to the broken panel behind the stove, its dark mouth still gaping. The cellar's secrets chains. Clothes. A crate burned in his mind. He'd called for help, but the shadows in the snow had put him on edge. Was this rescue or something else? He slid the bolt back, cracking the door, snow swirling in. A burly man in a sheriff's parka stood there, flashlight in hand, flanked by two deputies, their faces grim under frost-caked hoods. "Elias Kane?" the sheriff asked, voice rough. Elias nodded, stepping aside, the axe still in his grip. The sheriff's eyes widened at the wolves, then locked on Sam. "Jesus, you weren't kidding." The deputies rushed to Sam, one pulling a medical kit, the other radioing for a chopper despite the storm. Elias's chest tightened as Sam whimpered, the medic checking his pulse, wrapping his raw wrists. The female wolf growled, limping closer, her eyes fixed on the strangers. "Keep those beasts back," a deputy snapped, hand on his holster. Elias's voice was steel. "They saved him. They stay." The sheriff raised a hand, calming his men, but his gaze lingered on the wolves. Then the blood-smeared floor. "You said a cellar. Show me." Elias led him to the broken panel, the lantern's light revealing the stone steps. The sheriff descended, his flashlight sweeping the chamber, pausing at the chains and crate. "This is a crime scene now," he said, climbing back up, his face hard. Who else knew about this place? Elias shook his head, his throat dry. "No one, not even me." The sheriff's radio crackled, reporting a chopper grounded by the storm, but a news van had made it through, drawn by the radio chatter. Elias's stomach dropped. Reporters? He'd wanted solitude since Mara's death, and now the world was crashing in. Headlights multiplied outside, tires crunching snow, voices shouting over the wind. The door burst open, a woman in a red coat shoving a microphone in Elias's face. A cameraman behind her, lens glaring. "Mr. Kane, Is it true you found a kidnapped boy? What's with the wolves? Elias shoved the mic away, his voice a growl. Get out. The sheriff pushed the reporters back, but more arrived, their flashlights blinding, cameras clicking. Sam shrank against the wall, the medics shielding him. The female wolf bared her teeth, her snarl cutting through the chaos. Elias's hands clenched, the axe heavy at his side. He wanted to swing it, drive them all out, but Sam needed him calm. The sheriff barked orders, corralling the reporters outside, but one slipped on through. A wiry man with sharp eyes, scribbling notes. Elias Kane, Wright former ranger, wolf trainer. That you? Elias froze. The air sucked from the room. How did they know? The man smirked, holding up a phone, an old article glowing on the screen, a photo of Elias, younger, with a wolf pack. Headline, Rangers Beasts Patrol the Wild. The past he'd buried was spilling out, faster than the snow. You trained those wolves to find the kid, didn't you? The reporter pressed, stepping closer. Elias's jaw tightened, memories flooding, teaching wolves to track, their loyalty saving him from poachers, Mara's pride in his work. He'd quit after her death, unable to face the world. They're not mine, he said, voice low. But the reporter's eyes gleamed, sensing a story. The sheriff grabbed the man's arm, hauling him out, but the damage was done. The crowd outside buzzed, voices shouting Elias's name, cameras flashing through the windows. Sam's voice broke through, small and scared. Are they gonna take the wolves? Elias knelt beside him, forcing calm. Not if I can help it. The medic gave Sam a glucose shot, his color improving, but the boy's eyes stayed on the wolves, who hadn't moved, their presence a shield. The sheriff returned, his face grim. News is spreading. Feds are coming once the storm clears. They'll want the wolves caged, maybe put down. Elias's blood ran cold. They saved him. He snapped. They're not the threat. The sheriff sighed, glancing at the cellar. Someone used that place to hide kids. Maybe more than one. You're a hero now, Kane, but this is bigger than you. Elias's mind raced the shadows in the snow, the wolves' wounds, the cellar's secrets. Someone was still out there, and the crowd was drawing them closer. The female wolf growled, her ears twitching, her gaze fixed on the door. Elias grabbed the axe, his pulse spiking. The storm was easing, but the danger wasn't. He'd protect Sam and the wolves, no matter who came through that door. The female wolf's growl deepened, her bloodied flank heaving as she glared at the cabin door, where shadows danced beyond the frosted glass. Elias gripped his axe, the firelight glinting off its blade, his pulse racing as the crowd's shouts bled through the thinning storm. Sam clung to his blanket, his cough softer but his eyes wide, fixed on the wolves. The male wolf stirred, dragging itself closer to Sam, its amber gaze steady despite the blood pooling beneath it. Elias's mind churned the wolf's wounds, the cellar's secrets, the flickering shadows outside. How had these beasts found Sam, and why him? The female's ears twitched, her snarl fading into a low whine, and Elias's gaze drifted to her scars, older than the fresh gashes. A memory sparked, pulling him back to 4 days ago, to the wolf's journey through a frozen hell. The forest was a white labyrinth, snow swallowing the pines, the wind a relentless blade. The female, named Ash by Elias years ago when he freed her as a pup, led her mate, Cole, through the drifts, their noses low, tracking a scent fear, blood, a child's sweat. They'd caught it in town, near the park, where a van's tires left ruts in the slush. A boy's scream had pierced the dusk, then silence. But Ash's ears pinned, her hackles raised. She'd known that scent, known it meant wrong. Cole followed, his gray fur blending with the snow, his strength anchoring her resolve. They moved fast, paws sinking deep, the scent leading north, Into the wild. The trail grew faint, washed by snow, but Ash pressed on, her breath steaming, her claws tearing through ice. A gunshot cracked, splitting the night hunters, or worse. Cole lunged, taking the bullet's graze, blood blooming on his flank. But he didn't falter. His growl a warning to keep moving. Ash's heart pounded, the scent stronger now, mixed with oil and metal. They found the van, abandoned in a clearing, its doors ajar, the boy's jacket caught in the hinge. Ash sniffed, memorizing the captor's stench sweat. Tobacco, steel. The trail veered toward the ridge, to a cabin Ash knew, where a man had once saved her. His hands gentle, his voice steady. Elias. The wolves pushed through the storm, hunger gnawing, wounds bleeding. A cougar stalked them, its eyes glinting in the dark, drawn by their blood. Cole charged, teeth bared, driving it off, but not before its claws raked his side, deepening his wounds. Ash whined, licking his face, urging him on. The cabin was close, its chimney smoke a faint beacon. They staggered through the drifts, the scent of Sam's fear guiding them, until they collapsed at Elias's door, howling, bleeding, knowing he'd understand. Back in the present, Elias's breath caught, the memory fading as the female Ash nudged his hand, her nose wet, her eyes pleading. He knelt, stroking her arm, his voice low. You remembered me. Sam's voice broke through, small but clear. They fought for me. I heard them. In the dark. Elias nodded, his throat tight. Sam's story filled the gaps, snatched from the park, thrown in a van, locked in the crate. Hearing wolves snarling outside, their claws scraping metal. The captor had fled, spooked by the wolves, leaving Sam in the cellar. Elias's jaw clenched. Whoever did this knew the forest, knew his cabin, knew how to hide. The sheriff's radio crackled, pulling him back. Kane, choppers grounded, but feds are prepping. Stay sharp. Elias glanced at the door, the crowd louder now, cameras flashing through the snow. The reporters had exposed his past, Ranger, wolf trainer, turning him into a headline. He hated it, the world clawing at his solitude. But Sam needed him, and the wolves deserved more than cages. Ash growled again, her ears pinned, her body tense. Elias grabbed the axe, moving to the window. The snow was lighter, revealing shapes, reporters, deputies. But something else, a figure lingering at the tree line, too still. His blood ran cold. The male wolf, Cole, whined, dragging himself upright. His strength fading, but his eyes fierce. Sam clutched Elias's sleeve. Don't let them take the wolves. Elias's voice was firm. I won't. The sheriff stepped inside, his face grim. Feds want those wolves locked up, maybe tested. Public's scared. Elias's grip tightened. They saved him. They're not the enemy. The sheriff sighed, glancing at Sam, then the cellar. This place was a hideout. Kane, maybe for years. You're in deep now. Elias's mind raced the wolves' journey, the captor's escape, the figure in the snow. The crowd was a distraction, but the real threat was out there, watching. Ash's snarl grew louder, her claws scraping the floor, and Elias knew time was running out. The cabin's walls seemed to close in as camera flashes pierced the thinning snow, their harsh light bouncing off the frosted windows like gunfire. Elias stood by the door, axe in hand, his pulse a steady drumbeat. The female wolf Ash snarling at the growing crowd outside. Sam sat by the fire, his small frame dwarfed by blankets. His coughs quieter, but his eyes darting nervously to the windows where reporters pressed their lenses against the glass. The male wolf, Cole, lay beside him, his wounded flank heaving, his amber gaze fixed on the door, unwavering despite his fading strength. Voices shouted over the wind, reporters yelling Elias's name, deputies barking orders. a news van's engine rumbling. The sheriff shoved through the crowd, his parka dusted with snow, and slipped inside, slamming the door against the chaos. "Kane, this is a circus," he said, his voice tight. "Feds are 2 hours out, but the media's already got your life story, Ranger. Wolf trainer, recluse. They're calling you a hero." Elias's jaw clenched, his knuckles whitening on the axe. Hero. He'd wanted silence since Mara's death, not headlines ripping open his past. "Get them out," he growled, nodding at the windows where a reporter's face pressed close, breath fogging the glass. The sheriff sighed, wiping frost from his beard. "I'm trying, but your wolves aren't helping. Folks are scared, saying they're wild, dangerous. Feds might order them caged, or worse." Elias's blood ran hot. "They saved Sam. You cage them. You're caging the only reason he's alive." Ash growled, limping to Elias's side, her blood-smeared fur brushing his leg. Her eyes locked on the sheriff. Sam's voice piped up, small but fierce. "They're not bad. They found me." The sheriff glanced at Sam, softening, but his radio crackled with a deputy's voice. "Boss, crowd's getting pushy. Some hunter out here wants the wolves shot. Says they're a threat." Elias's heart thudded. He remembered the figure in the snow. Too still, too deliberate. Was it a hunter or the kidnapper? Hiding in the mob, he moved to the window, peering through the gaps in the crowd. Snow fell lightly now, revealing tire tracks, boot prints, and there at the tree line a silhouette, motionless, watching. His grip tightened, the axe's weight grounding him. The sheriff followed his gaze, frowning. "You see something?" Elias didn't answer, his mind racing. The cellar chains, clothes. A crate screamed of a predator who'd used his cabin for years, unnoticed. Mara's memory surged, her laughter, her warmth, stolen by sickness. He'd locked himself away, but the world had found him, and it wasn't letting go. A reporter banged on the door, shouting, "Mr. K, tell us about the wolves. Did you train them for this?" Elias yanked the door open, the axe raised, his voice a snarl. "Back off." The reporter stumbled back, camera flashing, but others surged forward, microphones thrusting like spears. The sheriff and deputies pushed them back, but the crowd swelled, chanting, "Wolfman, Wolfman." Elias slammed the door, his chest heaving. Sam whimpered, and Elias knelt beside him, forcing calm. "They won't touch you, kid. Or the wolves." Sam nodded, but his eyes flicked to Ash, who paced restlessly, her claws clicking, her growls low and urgent. The sheriff's radio crackled again, a federal agent's voice cutting through. "Sheriff, we're inbound. Secure the animals. Public safety's priority." Elias shot to his feet. Public safety. Those wolves tracked a kid through a blizzard, fought off God knows what. You tell your feds they're not touching them. The sheriff rubbed his temples, snow melting on his boots. "Kane, I get it, but the media's spinning this wild beast in a hero's cabin. If we don't control it, someone will take a shot." Elias's mind flashed to Ash and Cole's journey gunshots, cougar claws, blood in the snow. They'd fought to reach him, to save Sam, and now they were targets. He remembered his ranger days, training wolves to trust him, their loyalty fiercer than any humans. Ash had been a pup then, freed from a trap. Her eyes the same as now, fearless, knowing he wouldn't betray that. He grabbed a chair, wedging it under the door's handle. The crowd's shouts muffled but relentless. The sheriff watched, his face grim. "You're making this harder. Kane, feds will tear this place apart, cellar and all. They think it's tied to a trafficking ring, maybe years old." Elias's stomach dropped. A ring, the chains, the crate, the clothes. How many others had been hidden here? While he grieved Mara, oblivious. He glanced at Sam, who clutched Cole's fur, the wolf's warmth steadying him. "Keep him safe." Elias said, nodding at Sam. The sheriff nodded, but his eyes flicked to the window, where the silhouette at the tree line had vanished. Ash's growls grew sharper, her ears pinned, her body tense as she faced the door. Elias grabbed the axe, moving silently to the window. The crowd was a blur of coats and cameras, but a fresh boot print in the snow too deep, too deliberate caught his eye. His blood ran cold. The kidnapper wasn't gone. He was here in the chaos, waiting for a chance. Elias turned to the sheriff, voice low. You want to help watch the crowd? Someone out there knows that cellar better than I do. The sheriff's eyes narrowed, but he nodded, stepping outside, his radio buzzing. Elias knelt by Sam, his voice firm. Stay with Cole. Ash and I'll keep you safe. Sam nodded, his small hand gripping the wolf's fur. Ash pressed against Elias, her blood soaking his boots, her eyes burning with purpose. The crowd's chants grew louder, the storm's last gusts fading. But the real danger was closing in, and Elias knew it was only a matter of time before it struck. The cabin's walls trembled under the weight of the crowd's shouts, their voices slicing through the fading blizzard like shards of ice. Elias stood by the door, axe gripped tight, his pulse hammering. Ash's snarls vibrating beside him, her bloodied fur bristling as she glared at the frosted windows. Sam huddled by the hearth, clutching Cole's fur, the male wolf's wounded flank heaving, his amber eyes locked on the flashing cameras outside. Snow fell lightly now, but the chaos was unrelenting, reporters chanting, Wolfman deputies struggling to hold the line, news vans clogging the ridge. The sheriff paced, his radio crackling with federal agents' voices, their choppers' roar growing closer as the storm weakened. Elias's gaze darted to the tree line, where a deep boot print in the snow, too deliberate, too fresh, burned in his mind. The kidnapper was out there, cloaked in the mob, waiting. A sharp knock rattled the door, and Elias cracked it open. Axe raised, a federal agent in a black parka stepped in, her badge glinting, face stern. Elias Kane, Agent Torres, FBI, were taking over. Her eyes swept the cabin, pausing on Sam, then Ash and Cole. Those wolves need to be secured, immediately. Elias's voice was steel. They saved the kid. You want to secure something. Start with that cellar. Torres glanced at the broken panel, its dark mouth exhaling cold. Forensics is coming. But those animals are a public hazard. Hunters out there are itching to shoot. Sam's voice cracked, fierce despite his weakness. They're not dangerous. They fought for me. Torres's expression softened, but her tone stayed firm. Kid, I hear you. But protocol, Elias cut her off, stepping forward, Ash at his side, her growl low. Protocol, they tracked him through a blizzard, took bullets, fought a cougar, caged them, and you're caging the only reason he's alive. The sheriff nodded, his face grim. He's right, Kool-Aid. Kane trained wolves as a ranger. These aren't strays. Torres's eyes narrowed, sizing Elias up. The wolf trainer. Your story's everywhere now. Doesn't change the risk. The crowd's chants grew louder, a spotlight sweeping the cabin, blinding Elias. Mara's memory surged her laughter, her warmth, stolen by sickness 5 years ago. He'd fled the world to escape pain, but now it was tearing at him, demanding he fight. Arsham, a deputy burst in, breathless. Agent, Sam's parents are here. Chopper landed. Sam's eyes lit up, his small frame trembling with hope. Elias knelt, his voice steady. You're going home, kid. Sam threw his arms around him, then Cole, whispering, thank you. Ash nudged Sam's hand, licking his fingers, her eyes alert, but soft. The door flew open and a couple staggered in, their faces pale, tears streaming. Sam, the woman, sobbed, dropping to her knees, pulling him into a crushing embrace. The man gripped Elias's shoulder, voice breaking. You saved our boy. God bless you. Elias nodded, his throat tight, but his eyes flicked to the window, the boot print haunting him. The reunion warmed the cabin, but danger lingered. Suddenly, a shout from the crowd turned sharp, chaotic. "Get those wolves!" A man in a hunter's jacket shoved past a deputy, rifle in hand, his face twisted with rage. "They're killers. I'll end this." Elias lunged, axe raised, blocking the door. "Touch them, and you're done." Ash snarled, baring teeth, her blood dripping onto the floorboards. The hunter hesitated, but the crowd egged him on, cameras flashing. Torres drew her sidearm, voice booming. "Back off, now!" The sheriff tackled the hunter, wrenching the rifle away, but the mob surged, some cheering, others screaming for blood. Elias slammed the door, wedging a chair under the handle, his chest heaving. Sam clung to his mother, whimpering, while Cole dragged himself closer, growling weakly. Torres's radio buzzed, a forensic tech's voice cutting through. "Sellers got DNA, multiple profiles. Hideout's been active for years. Maybe a trafficking ring." Elias's blood ran cold. Years he'd lived here, grieving Mara, while monsters caged children beneath his feet. The sheriff pulled Torres aside, their voices low. "Protected land, no hunt zone, wolf sanctuary." Elias's heart lifted, but the crowd's roar drowned hope. A rock smashed a window, glass shattering, snow swirling in. Elias spun, axe raised, as a wiry man from the crowd climbed through, a knife glinting in his hand. "You're done, Wolfman," he hissed, eyes wild. Elias swung the axe, the blade stopping inches from the man's throat. "Who sent you?" The man smirked, unyielding. "You'll see." Ash leaped, teeth snapping, pinning him to the floor. Deputies rushed in, cuffing the intruder, but Elias's gut twisted. That smirk, that knife too familiar, too close to the seller's secrets. Torres's face hardened. "We're locking this down. Kane, we've got a deal. Wolves stay free, restricted to the no-hunt zone. Vets will treat them." "Agree," Elias exhaled, relief battling dread. "They belong here, not cages." Sam's mother looked up, tears streaming. "They'll be safe," Elias nodded, stroking Ash's fur. "I'll make sure." Sam broke free, hugging Elias, then Ash and Cole. "I'll visit, I swear." His father handed Elias a card. "Anything you need, we owe you." The chopper's roar grew louder, deputies escorting Sam's family out, the crowd parting reluctantly. Torres lingered, her voice low. "Kane, that seller's part of something big. That guy with the knife, not just a crank. Stay sharp." Elias's jaw clenched, the boot print flashing in his mind. The intruder's smirk echoed the shadows he'd seen. Ash growled, ears pinned, sensing it too. The sheriff clapped Elias's shoulder. "You're a hero. Kane, like it or not." Elias didn't want glory, only peace for Sam, Ash, and Cole. As the crowd thinned, snow blanketed the ridge, the cabin falling silent. Elias knelt by Cole, checking his wounds, Ash pressing close. They'd won this battle, but the kidnapper was still out there, and Elias knew the fight wasn't over. Snow fell like a shroud over the ridge, the cabin a lone sentinel in the silent forest, its walls scarred from the storm's wrath. Elias knelt by the hearth, bandaging Ash's wounds, her bloodied fur now stitched by the vet who'd braved the fading blizzard. Cole lay beside her, his breath stronger, his amber eyes blazing as they tracked the shadows beyond the frosted windows. The crowd had vanished reporters, feds, news vans leaving trampled snow and tire tracks, but their invasion lingered, the world's eyes burning into Elias's solitude. Sam was safe, flown out with his tearful family, his promise to return echoing in Elias's ears. Yet the boot print at the tree line, the knife-wielding intruder's smirk, and the seller's chilling secrets gnawed at him. A storm brewing beneath the calm, Elias stood, boots thudding on the floorboards, and peered outside. The no-hunt zone stretched beyond the pines, a sanctuary where Ash and Cole could heal, their freedom hard-won against a mob's bloodlust. Mara's memory, her laughter, her warmth urged him to protect it, but the cellar's truth, a decade of hidden crimes, weighed like iron. He grabbed a broom, sweeping glass from the shattered window, each shard a reminder of the chaos. The radio crackled, left on, a reporter's voice booming. Elias Kane, the wolf trainer, saved a boy in a tale of mercy that's gone viral. Elias switched it off, but his phone buzzed. Notifications flooding #Wolfman, #WinterMiracle, clips of Ash's snarls, Sam's reunion, his axe raised. Strangers hailed him as a hero, shared wolf sketches, funded sanctuaries. He ignored it. But Sam's parents' message, a photo of Sam smiling, words of gratitude cracked his armored heart. He stepped outside, snow crunching, the air sharp with frost. Ash and Cole followed, their steps steadier, noses twitching. The ridge glowed under a pale moon, distant howls signaling kin. Elias's chest eased, he'd been dead since Mara. But Sam and the wolves had pulled him back. A snap in the pines shattered the quiet. Ash's hackles rose, her growl a blade. Cole staggering upright, teeth bared. Elias's hand flew to the axe at his belt, pulse spiking. "Who's there?" he shouted, voice echoing. No answer, but a shadow moved tall, deliberate, closer than before. The boot prints, memory burned. The intruder's smirk flashing. Elias tightened his grip, snow stinging his face. "Show yourself," a figure stepped from the trees. A man in a dark coat, face obscured by a hood, a glinting blade in his hand. "You should have stayed quiet." "Kane," he rasped, voice cold as the wind. Ash lunged, snarling, but the man swung, his knife slicing the air, grazing her flank. Elias roared, axe arcing, the blade catching the man's arm. Blood spraying, Cole charged, teeth sinking into the man's leg, dragging him down. The man screamed, thrashing, but Elias pinned him, axe at his throat. "Who are you?" "Why, Sam," the man laughed, a chilling sound. "You think it's over, that cellar's ours. Always will be." Elias's blood ran cold. Ours, a trafficking ring, still active, still watching. He pressed the axe harder, but a gunshot cracked from the pines, the bullet grazing Elias's shoulder, pain searing. He staggered, the man wrenching free, vanishing into the snow. Ash and Cole pursued, their howls piercing, but Elias shouted back. They obeyed, limping to him, blood fresh on Ash's fur. Elias clutched his shoulder, crimson soaking his coat, and stumbled inside, barring the door. His mind raced the man's words, the gunshot, the ring. He grabbed the radio, voice hoarse. "Sheriff, it's Kane. Got attacked. Suspects tied to the cellar. He's not alone." Static hissed. Then the sheriff's voice. "Hold tight. Kane, feds are on it." Elias bandaged his wound, pain throbbing, but his resolve hardened. He wouldn't let them win. Dawn broke, the ridge glowing, and a federal chopper landed, agents swarming through the forest, tracking the suspect's trail. Elias refused a medic, staying with Ash and Cole, their wounds restitched. A letter from Sam's parents lay on the table, with a drawing Elias, Ash, and Cole under stars, labeled heroes. Elias's eyes stung, a smile breaking, his first in years. He pinned it beside Mara's scarf, a bridge to hope. The radio reported the sanctuary's expansion, funded by viral donations. Ash and Cole, its guardians. Online, #WinterMiracle trended. Strangers sharing stories of kindness. Inspired by Elias's fight. He didn't want fame, but Sam's smile, the wolf's freedom, gave it meaning. As night fell, Elias stepped outside, Ash and Cole at his side, their howls rising, a song of survival. The kidnappers, the threat lingered a rustle in the dark, but Elias was ready. Axe sharp, wolves fierce, the winter's miracle, Sam's safety, the sanctuary. A purpose reborn held strong, and for now it was enough. From wolves' cries in a snowy storm to a child's rescue, Elias's tale of mercy gripped the world. Thank you for listening. Like, share, and subscribe to catch our next thrilling story. Don't forget to hit the bell for updates.